Hey everyone, my name is Claudia Klein. For my self-narrative, I wasn't quite sure what exactly I wanted to talk about, but after watching Dr. Tony's video example, a past experience popped into my mind. So I have some notes here to help me keep my thoughts organized. Whenever I was in high school, I took an AP Human Geography class, and I had this teacher who said some of the craziest things. He told us so many interesting stories as his lessons, and I enjoyed the stories over, just plain lectures. But on the other hand, I didn't always like some of the comments that he would make as a teacher. He told us that he used to be a Lutheran, but then whenever he got married to his third wife, who was a Methodist preacher, he became a Methodist. I didn't mind whichever religion or denomination he wanted to be, but I did not care about him making fun of other denominations. He laughed about Bible stories and said, who would really believe this? Or questions like, during the flood, what happened to the fish? And he would laugh about all of it. And one day, I told him about what it means to have faith and believing in what you can't see sometimes. And it's very common for me to, add comments to the conversation each day. Well, eventually, he became more and more distasteful towards me. And that same week in church, my youth pastor passed out these cool little books, and the book had all sorts of neat things about being a Christian. We all were given about 4 to 5 of them, and we were challenged to pass them out to people at school who might be interested in just reading them for fun. So one day, I was giving a guy one in my class, and he wanted one, and my teacher saw me and started flipping out. It was completely harmless, like he wasn't teaching, nothing like that. It was just literally a conversation between the two of us, the other student and I. And he jumped all over me, my teacher did. He was like, there you go again, trying to tell my students about God, and I've had enough of it. And just honestly to the point, like, he continued to yell other things, and I literally just felt like crying right there in the middle of the class. Meanwhile, what made it even worse is I had 2 other students in my class that went to church with me, and they would say some things to back me up, but they were also kind of scared of him, so they really didn't want to get in any type of debate with him, so they sometimes wouldn't say anything to back me up. And I don't know, I couldn't take bashing God, especially whenever all that he's done for us. He saved the world. He sent his only son, to die on the cross for our sins whenever Jesus was perfect and sinless. So I have no words for that. It's amazing. But I also didn't understand about my teacher is, he claimed to be a Christian, but then he always was downing the Bible and bashing God, and I was just confused about that. Well, I will say that day that he was yelling at me in class, God was definitely at work, because he was proud of me for standing up for what I believed in, because literally a minute or 2 after that whole scenario went down, the announcement came on over the intercom, and it said, please send Claudia Klein to the front office, she is signing out. And my teacher made a smart comment like, oh, imagine that. Well, I immediately grabbed my backpack and walked out the door, just holding back my tears. I finally just started crying as I was walking to the front office and as I made my way up there. And then I ran into my mom and a really sweet lady, actually one of our friends who goes to our church. And side note, I live in a small town. There's probably maybe a little over 500 people that go to my high school. So it seems like just one big friend group. We feel like we know everyone there. So I told my mom and our friend about it, all what had happened, and by that point I was kind of thinking to myself, I was like, is it really worth it to have these conversations each day in class? I felt like I wasn't making a difference to anyone, and especially not him, because he would always continue. I was embarrassing myself, it felt like, and I was almost to the point of just giving up on doing the right thing. But that was until our friend gave me some good advice. She said something to the extent of, never stop doing what you know is right, because eventually it'll work out and you'll be glad that you did. And she said, even though it doesn't seem like it, you're planting seeds all over your classroom and in your classmates, and they are learning from you. So, I kind of took that to heart, and that made me feel better about the situation. And she told me, honestly, he's probably acting like that because he might be having a hard time listening and accepting the things that I'm saying. And you never know what he's struggling with in his own heart. And actually, pretty cool story, later on in that school year, I would talk to him like one-on-one a few times after class, and just here and there, sometimes before class would start. And one time I told him about a movie, it's God's Not Dead, and I had watched that movie like over the past weekend, and it made me think of him. And I told him that, and he just started crying, like right in front of me, just started crying at the fact that I told him that a movie made me think of him. And I realized that he had either rarely or possibly had never really had someone say something like that to him. Like, he told me that it made him happy when someone thought of him or remembered him, and it made me happy for me to say something like that meant so much to him. So, and the cool thing was, I had him again the next year in my AP World History class, and he was happy to have me in his class, and we always got along after that. And I'm glad I never, one thing I learned from it though, I never stopped being myself and standing up for what I believe in the midst of, and just being kind in the midst of all of that, because it always ends up the way it should at the end.